Truth here, and it's time for more Otaku Evolution. Be sure to like, subscribe, and contribute to the Patreon. It's been a hot minute since I talked about my favorite thrilling thief, Lupin III. My guess is that this video is probably on Daily Motion, because, as usual, TMS is a brutal copyright dragon who will flag anything I do, regardless of how tightly edited it is. If it actually makes it on YouTube, I'll be very surprised. You must be familiar enough with Monkey Punch's lascivious larcenous, Lupin III, by now, right? Am I doomed to forever reintroduce him and his supporting players to my pitifully small audience from now until the very heat death of the universe? If you've ever watched my Lupin III playlist, you'll probably be all too accustomed to the characters and hijinks of the felonious fellow and his allies. I tend to cover at least a couple of Lupin titles per year, so it's added up over time. Go on, look at some of those past videos, and then come back to this one, naturally. Lately, we've seen the ostensible end to the Takeshi Koike era of Lupin, with Zenigata and the Two Lupins, another of his 50-minute features, and the full-length movie The Immortal Bloodline, which wraps things up. Yeah, I'll get around to reviewing those too, just wait. I wonder what will come next for Lupin. Another movie? A return to the annual TV specials? More TV shows? Maybe the franchise will take a break for a while. It's certainly earned a vacation, but I always want more. One of the big draws of Lupin III Part 4 is that it takes place on the Italian Peninsula. The settings are largely in Italy or San Marino, which was because of the franchise's popularity in the region. The show actually aired in Italy first, with its own Italian television soundtrack. The English dub is based on that version of the show, though for this video, I'm using a version of the dub synced to the Japanese Yuji Ono music. The Italian soundtrack is kind of generic, especially compared to Ono's jazzy tracks. But the show otherwise displays its love for Italy's lush settings, cultural touchstones, and history. It's wonderfully culturally inspired. Leonardo da Vinci himself is the final antagonist for Italy's sake. It's an interesting show full of admiration for its subjects. As always, the show is about Lupin III and his colorful band of fellow thieves. Jigen, expert gunman, Goemon, a samurai who feels out of time, and con artist and femme fatale Fujiko. They're in the business of stealing all sorts of valuable objects, usually from less than reputable people, planning carefully their various heists, even though they often go wrong. And as always, law enforcement, here represented largely by the ICPO's Inspector Zenigata, is hot on their heels at the most inconvenient times.
Talk to me now, mister. Wasn't Fujiko a master of disguise, too? Excuse me? You think you can fool me with this excuse for a disguise?
I'm real, you nincompoop! What the hell, Lupin? How could you let this fool capture you?
In Part 4, there are a couple of added elements, though. One is the presence of Rebecca Rosellini, model, designer, and Lupin's wife? Yeah, the series starts with Lupin marrying Rebecca, mostly to get his hands on San Marino's crown, but he also finds her interesting. She's a wannabe thief who steals for the pure thrill, not too much unlike Lupin himself. She has a mysterious past involving a Japanese man who wrote a codex with the ability to draw his memories into a person's mind. It makes about as much sense in context. Anyway, she's a delightful new addition to the chemistry of the Lupin cast.
What are you gonna do now?
A screaming honeymoon!
You give new meaning to the word Bridezilla!
Another new element is the British Secret Service, MI6, who I guess is working in Italy, as if Italy doesn't have their own agencies. The MI6 operations in Italy are led by Percival Gibbons, who utilizes the super secret agent Justin Person, codenamed Nyx. Nyx has special abilities that make him a truly deadly foe, and a hair-triggered temper when it comes to the endangering of his family. Lupin can barely handle him. Even Nyx's boss has trouble handling him. I find him to be my favorite new character in the Lupin show, even ahead of Yada in Part 5. He's got an interesting dynamic because he's a loving family man, but also a remorseless killing machine for his country. He kind of resembles Daniel Craig's James Bond, maybe a little older. I wish he would have returned for part 6 since it took place in England.
Hesitate.
He just dodged him. It's like he isn't even human.
The Rebecca stuff and the MI6 stuff intersects at some point, mostly because of Rebecca's first love, the one who did the Codex. MI6 uses the research to clone Leonardo da Vinci for reasons, I guess? And then Da Vinci gets loose and goes rogue, since fuck the British. Lupin figures this all out based on,
You know, it was really unclear.
Anyone familiar with the first 3 Lupin TV shows can tell you that, by and large, they're episodic. While there are a few two-parters here and there, capers were mostly one-offs. Part 4, much like the woman called Fujiko Mine before it, had both standalone and lore episodes, with a main underlying storyline. This gives the series a kind of Cowboy Bebop-ish feel to it. Now, you can decide whether or not the one-offs or the lore episodes are better, but personally I like a variety of both kinds. Now let's talk about some of those favorites of both kinds of episodes. I'm a pretty big fan of the first Nyx episode, which sees Lupin being chased by the British agent across town, closed in on because of Nyx's skills. I also like the episode where Lupin and Jigen steal a car of a kidnapper who had kidnapped Nyx's daughter Bridget. Boy, did Rebecca piss Nyx off in that one. The one where Goemon and a former ally tried to track an assassin of fellow assassins is pretty interesting, with a decent, if not a little obvious, twist. Then there's the episode where Lupin dives into the world of the cryptic symbology that contains the memories of Rebecca's first love. Lupin ends up in a showdown with Nyx shortly after, and is ultimately captured by MI6 and handed off to Zenigata. This leads to another great episode, where Lupin just barely escapes capture by once again cleverly fooling Zenigata.
In other words, you'll stop chasing me when I die, right? Granted, it was a classic bold move, but we are in Italy, and it's called the Land of Art, so why not?
When did you think of this plan?
It was that time on the train. It's like a picture. But to be honest with you, my life really was on the line. If I did die, this picture right here might be worth a heck of a lot more, that's for sure. Like Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper.
I like the episode where Lupin, Jigen, and Goemon have to transport a dog to the docks, driving through the Italian countryside and getting into hijinks while bantering. It's more of a low-key episode that sees the gang at their most relaxed, though even that means being keenly aware of their environment. Probably my favorite episode of the entire series sees Lupin infiltrate an island to steal a list of MI6 agents from terrorists that stole it. Naturally, Nyx is also there trying to retrieve the disc with the list, and is horribly tortured for his troubles. But sometimes a less stressful episode could be good too, like the one where Lupin steals a car owned by a dying singer whose husband wants to get rid of it to boost its value. In the end, the husband realizes the novelty of the car getting one last ride.
What a caring child you are, to give us one last drive before the very end, my sweet. Nora!
The conclusion to part 4 is complicated, and it can be a little surreal at times too. I wasn't exactly sure what to make of it when I first watched it. I liked the first part of the two-parter that ends the show, but the second episode got a little too Looney Tunes for my taste the first time through. I came to appreciate it more every time I rewatched it though, even if it wasn't among my favorite episodes or Lupin show conclusions. Leonardo da Vinci was an interesting choice as an antagonist, but I felt like his plot was a little too bizarre even for Lupin III. By the end, I hardly cared that he was defeated, except that it showed how clever Lupin and the gang are.
Something in common.
We both steal people's hearts, don't we?
You could be so much more than a thief. And not only you, Lupin. All of you have great potential.
Lupin III Part 4 is an excellent Lupin series, and a great show overall, even if it does have a few faults. Again, if you prefer only episodic adventures, you might find the story arc annoying, and if you prefer arcs, the one-offs might feel like filler. While Rebecca and Nyx are both good additions to the Lupin chemistry, they never really go that far beyond their initial characterizations. And there are a few weak standalones that feel like they're desperate to find a balance that they can never maintain. But I love the Italian flair, the MI6 bits, the production values, and the overall pep in it. It's clearly a worthy addition to the Lupin meta-series that's full of life and character. And that's it for Otaku Evolution this time. Next time, we'll take a look at a Dragon Ball Super movie. Until then, see ya!
Diabolical? We're not that bad. We're just thieves. Not self-righteous posers like you.